Welcome back. So now we are going to write a header called KeyConstants.h. We have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 headers and 1 main CPP. So there are a few of those headers which are independent of one another, like timer.h, helper.h, keyconstants.h, and base64.h. They are standalone headers, so they are not dependent on the other ones that we will write. But for example, keyBhook or keyboardhook.h and io.h, they will be dependent upon these 4. So we will independently write the 4 headers whose functions, variables we will use in the process of actually sending a mail, in capturing the keystrokes, processing it, and encrypting the log files of the keylogger. So we'll just take it one by one. Let's go ahead and begin. Well, my mouse is going wild again. Okay, there we go. So sources, yep, so it says main CPP. Okay, now once again, just go ahead and click on File, New, Empty Project. Would you like to add it? Yes, we would very much like to add it. And our next header will be key. Is it? No, is it? Key. God. I mean, it's not important that it is called so. It can be called tralala.h, but yeah, it's much easier to orientate yourselves when it says key constants. Then you know approximately what's in it, as opposed to tralala.h. Stands to reason, doesn't it? Okay, so yep, we got main here, and up here we have key constants, but it's basically just here under headers. That's all that there is to it. Let's begin writing it, shall we? Let me just have a look at my notes. There we go. So the very first thing that we will need to do is include a guard. So this makes sure that you can only include this particular header once in reality. However, you will include it more times, but as I said, in reality, in terms of the system, it will be included only once. I would suggest looking up the term include guard on the net as well. Just take a look at the default definitions of it. The very first search on Google will pretty much tell you what they are in C++. Okay, so let me just zoom it in a little bit more, and let's go ahead and create these guards. Okay, I keep promising myself that I shall change this keyboard, but one day. If and def, what this means is if not defined, and then we need to say like what is not defined. So key constants underline h, go ahead and define it. And you can see actually CodeBlocks creates the default ending to this. So we can just leave that as it is. Thank you, CodeBlocks, for being so kind and nice. It's always good to save time. So if it is not defined, please go ahead and define it. Key constants underline h. There we go. Now we can write between these two pretty much whatever we want. Well, doesn't mean we should write whatever we want. Anyway, let's go ahead and type in include map. Now map is specific to C++11. And let's go ahead and include string. Now string, if you know anything about C++, you know what include string means here, but map, now this is a new type in C++11. It is comparable to a hash table, for example, in Java. More or less, in my opinion, it's pretty much that. But I would definitely suggest also looking it up on the net. So just take a look, type map in C++, and the very first search on Google will tell you what it actually is. It's like an array that is based on key value pairs. Each value has a key that is used for accessing that particular value. So very simple. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue writing this code. We will need to create two classes. The first class will be called keyPair. As keyPair. So keypain. That is what I'm going through right now. But okay, keyPair. The reason why I say that it's extremely difficult to actually cast this and to look at the code and to figure out just by looking at the commented code and figuring out how to explain it. Explaining it to myself and explaining it to other people are two completely different things. Anyway, CodeBlocks has been kind enough to create the opening and closing bracket again and to create a semicolon at the end. I know it's a little bit weird that you use a semicolon at the end of a curly bracket, but oh well. Anyway, let's type in public colon, and this will make sure that all the other classes will have access to whatever is within public, which is something that we need in this particular case. You also have private and protected, but we're not going to use them now as we don't really need them. The important thing to understand here is this is not a comprehensive C++ course. This is how to write a keylogger. There is a C++ course out there you can have fun with if you want to learn C++ completely, but this is like more for advanced users. Let's go ahead and type in key pair, and this is a constructor for this class, and it will have optional arguments that can be passed to it and that will be initialized. Okay, so what are these optional parameters? Well, let's type in const std colon. So this is a standard namespace. String. I could have actually included the namespace std up there at the very beginning, but I'm just gonna include it as we need it along the merry way. Okay, so constant string, and we're gonna give it vk equals, well, it's gonna equal to nothing. This will be an empty string. Okay, another constant string will be const string. Oh, I made a mistake. It's on string. No, it doesn't look like it. Const string name, and the string name will also be equal to nothing. But I seem to have this extra bracket this extra parentheses is always being formed for some strange reason. I suppose that's just the way that CodeBlocks works, but sometimes it is very helpful. Actually, a lot of the times it is very helpful. So these two will basically represent our pairs, which we will use later on. You will see how they tie and interrelate to each other. Let me just see if I've written this correct one more time. So key pair const std string and vk and %sign vk. There's const string and right. Yeah, I am the genius. Anyway, perhaps a bright idea on my part would have been to actually include namespace up here, but I have to behave like this in an abnormal fashion, and God knows for what reasons. Could have something to do with my parents, but whatever. Anyway, now we need to go ahead and pre-initialize these variables, so to say. We need to type in vk name and vk. Excellent. So just comma. Okay, so here, name. You don't actually need to write it the way I'm writing it, one below the other, just writing it so that you can actually see better. That's really the only purpose. Name, and for God knows what reasons, I am going to place this here. The body will be empty. But the CodeBlocks doesn't understand my wishes. There we go. The body will be empty. There isn't a need for anything to be there. So this is a constructor with these optional parameters, which will be initialized and which will form our key pair basis. Okay. Let's go back. Oh my God. There we go. Now we can go ahead and type in std string vk name. And now we can type in as well std string name, because we're going to need them. Now, what this here will represent, this will present the virtual key name, which will not be necessarily a user-friendly name, but the name down below will be something that we will write for ourselves and that we will be able to actually read it. It will be closer to us human beings, so to say, as opposed to being closer to machine level. Now we need to go ahead and create another class, which will be the second class here in this header. We call class keys. Now we will use this class in order to store a map of keys that we get from the system, and we will translate them into something closer to our understanding, as I have stated. Human-friendly. So class keys, and let's go ahead and write them. Public, public again. Let me just scroll into my notes here. And this is written pretty ugly. Let me just tabify it, as I would say. Okay, there we go. Let's go ahead and type in static std map. Wow, map. And let's go ahead and form, this is that new type that I was talking about. So int, key, pair, close it, keys, semicolon. Now we will use this map in order to map the VK code to human readable form that is logged to our text file. So we want the logs to be in a human readable form. We don't want something ridiculous to be there. That is really it that you need to write here. No big deal. And down below, I will show you a map of these key pairs. Now, I really don't feel like typing them because there are like a lot of them. So I will just copy paste them. Let me just go ahead and do that. And you will see soon enough why didn't I actually type them, because there are quite a good number of them. We have tried to define and create scenarios for each individual case, so it doesn't matter which keyboard you use, you will always get the keystroke. Anyway, just let me go ahead and copy that from my other screen.